a little more character depth, bees, and a spider killer robot. Nightflyers, Season 1, Episode 2, Review. Hey y'all, it's your Twisted Girl Next Door here, and today I am doing the Episode 2 of Nightflyers Season 1. And so, overall, my thoughts of this episode was, it was better than the first episode. So I think it's definitely probably going along with my first prediction that this would be the kind of series where the pilot episode was so-so and you saw a lot of potential, and then it got better from there, or it gets better from there. And I think this second episode showed that, because it was better. It was a little bit more character depth. Things were happening, and I think it's starting to find its pacing when it comes to just kind of meshing all the characters together and the way they interact in their relationships. So overall, I definitely like this better than episode 1. Carl and Dr. Matheson, basically, they were trying to prove that Thal, who Captain Aris no longer trusted because, crew members were getting hurt, that Thal was innocent. Thal is still basically on the loose at this moment in the, at that point of the story. And so they're trying to prove that he didn't burn that guy, with his mind or anything like that. And they fell because he totally burned that guy. Yeah, he didn't even do it with his mind either. Like, the video camera basically shows that he, threw the thing down and deliberately hurt this guy. So, that lets you know that Thal definitely has some danger to him. So, there's that. Thal also meets a mysterious bee woman, who we later find out is named Tessia or whatever. I think her name is Tessia. And so he meets this bee woman in this garden of the ship, because this ship has a garden. And so he first meets her, and she has these bees on her arms and stuff like that. And she's just ethereal. And I actually very much liked her. Funny enough, this was my first time seeing her, and I just got this vibe where I was like, I feel like I like this character more than I like any of the other characters I've been introduced to so far, which was weird. But yeah, so they have a whole conversation throughout the episode, and she seems very understanding of Thal and very easygoing kind of personality when it comes to dealing with him, and she calms him down where eventually he gives himself up after talking to her, which was, okay, so that was fine. We also get a little bit more of Rumi'S backstory. It seems as though we got some glimpses of her hitting a man with a hammer. So I don't know if she killed a guy or something, but kind of like I predicted, we are getting a little bit more of Rumi'S backstory. So there's more underneath the surface of this shrinking violet, which is a trope. We saw that coming. Carl is still seeing his dead daughter, who we find out is dead. Yeah, Carl's daughter is dead. That's what we eventually find out. So he's seeing images of her. He thinks it's basically Thal doing that, making him, think he's seeing his dead daughter, who I think died of the virus that is taking hold on Earth. And so he's having hallucinations. We also find out that his marriage is in shambles, which once again saw that coming, because if he's having some sort of flirtation or eye thing with Dr. Matheson, they kind of had to make it so that he's not in a happy-go-lucky marriage, right? Then finally we have Captain Aris, mysterious hologram Captain Aris, and the fact that we find out that he knows there's something going on with the ship, that it's not just Thal, and that there's something going on with the ship, and also spider killer robot, which was probably the highlight of this episode. The spider killer robot who kills 2 crew members. Very cool. So with the first aspect of Dr. Matheson and Carl, it becomes very evident that Carl is kind of what we figured he was going to be, where he's a very determined person. It's very clear that Thal has problems and that this was going to be a problem having him on the ship, but Carl is very determined to continue with this mission, no matter what, no matter whose life is in danger. And so we saw a little bit of that with this situation, which is fine. I mean, it's okay. I mean, he's our lead character, but it's okay that he kind of has a gray area, because then it would be kind of boring if he was like this upstanding, I have a total moral compass, I'm always in control kind of a guy. So it was nice to see a little bit of a gray area when it came to him being so determined to keep things going, even though everything's going to crap, to continue with the situation. I also felt like Dr. Matheson came off as very naive during this. Agatha Matheson came off very naive, because it was like, it's very clear Thal has problems. It's very clear that he's probably causing a lot of the mischief. Not all of it. We later find out that the ship is also doing some crazy stuff that Thal has nothing to do with. But like, she's just like, oh, he's okay, it's all good. No, it's not all good, Matheson. It's not. And I actually liked Thal's and Tessia's conversation. It was, for one, it actually showed Thal to be a little bit more sensible. And I guess you needed that kind of character for him to play off of, that wasn't hostile, but also wasn't like Dr. Matheson and being really, like, coddling. That worked for me. That was actually probably like my secondary highlight, was the two of them kind of having the conversation. It wasn't like the biggest aspect of the episode, but it was probably the most natural, and it was also when Thal seemed the most tolerable for me, because he hasn't been very tolerable so far. She came out of nowhere. She had bees all around. I don't know what that was about. It was very cool, but at first I was like, is she even real? Like, I thought maybe she was like a hallucination or something with the way I'm like, oh, this isn't real. This is like the ship. But it turns out Tessie is real. So, okay, fine. With Lumi, digging into Lumi's past a bit more, I didn't think I would care, because her character didn't seem super interesting to me, but maybe that was on purpose, that they kind of made her character not interesting in the first episode, so that when you start digging deeper into her past, there's more to her than meets the eye. And I think in this sense, my interest was piqued, because the whole thing with the hammer, her seemingly hurting somebody for some reason, and how that affected her, seeing that image in her head, it's kind of like, what's that about? So it piqued my interest. With Carl, that whole domestic thing, I really hope they don't descend into focusing too much on that with him, because unless it has something to do where it ultimately deals with the mission or whatever, it's kind of like, okay, he goes into space and now we're going to have these subplots of him brooding about his failed marriage and probably flirting or hooking up with Dr. Matheson eventually or whatever. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but I don't really think it's needed. I don't think it's really necessary. Now, the whole thing with his daughter, I think they can play on that a little bit, but I feel like that would have to be from the angle of, okay, this is grief. He's grieving, fine. But not so much where it's like, let's stop everything and talk about how he's dealing with marital problems. I just think that's it's not necessary. And it didn't really interest me. Captain Eris, now that was actually pretty interesting. I'm glad that they dug a little deeper into him. Obviously, there's something going on. We find out he knows there's something with the ship. He talks to the cameras. He's like, you can't be doing this. And it's like, who are you talking to? And then there's a whole thing with the spider robot that comes out of nowhere, which was so cool. I really dug the spider robot. I kind of jumped with the spider robot angle, because that came out of nowhere. I didn't know that was going to happen. I was very pleasantly surprised, especially coming out of Carl's domestic problems. I was like, all right, fine. So when we got Spider Robot, I was like, yeah, something. So Captain Eris clearly knows something's going on. He eventually actually tells Carl, it's like, yeah, there's something going on here. So, which is also kind of messed up, because it's like, you knew there was something wrong with your ship, that your ship might have been kind of homicidal, maybe. Or something was on there that's, not nice, and let this crew come on for some reason. But then they strike up a deal where it's like, okay, I'll let Thal go and tell everyone it's fine if you, continue with it and we keep moving on. So they kind of have this uneasy pact over what's happening, which is fine. More mystery. I think I think it works. I liked Captain Eris's deal, and I think as that unfolds, it'll be really interesting to see what he's about. Breakout performance for this episode is Spider Killer Robot. Yes, that was the best performance of this episode. Once again, probably letting you know the level of how impressed I am. That, yeah, last time it was like the burning guy. This episode is the Spider Killer Robot. But it was actually, it kind of stole the show. Overall, I thought this episode, like I said, was better than the first episode. Better than episode 1. I think the pacing is still a little uneven. I think when it deals with kind of the mystery that's going on in the ship, it really works. When it gets sidetracked into kind of domestic squabble stuff, like with Carl's whole home life and everything, I think that's when it lacks, because they haven't made me care enough to be able to pause to dig deeper into his problems. So, other than that, I think this was a decent episode. So, what did you think about this episode, episode 2 of Nightflyers season 1? Let me know, comment down below, and also be sure to subscribe so that you are the first to know when I post my videos of all things horror. Thanks for watching. Let's get creepy together.